Hello, Tim here again. I haven't recorded again for about just over a week. I've finished work now, so I've got a few days spare between my last job, which was as a self-employed person, and my new job, which will be as an employed person, which I'm looking forward to. Just wanted to really catch up with the world a little bit. A lot's happened since I last recorded. I talked about, or when I last recorded, I talked about the situation in Canada with the Emergency Powers Act, which had been abused by Trudeau. Subsequently, he has rescinded most of that, although I understand that there's still the possibility of bank accounts being frozen and people's livelihoods and assets being stripped, which is very, very worrying for people in Canada. Chilling on free speech, you might say. On the upside, I know that a lot of the mandates have been dropped. I think that situation really is rolling on. I saw some reports about one of the principal leaders of the protests being led into court in handcuffs and all this sort of stuff, which is ridiculous. You've got to question whether or not this person is going to get a fair trial in Canada, which is, again, ridiculous. The situation will roll on, and I think there will be consequences, hopefully for the people who've abused their power, used the law to enforce what they believe to be right, and to put down people who disagree with them, who don't have any power apart from the ability to protest. The more astute among you may notice that I've been to the barbers since I last recorded. It's not a vast improvement, but got to try and look a bit neater. What has happened, of course, since I last recorded, is that the Russian army has invaded Ukraine, with all sorts of small political gestures by Putin beforehand to justify what he was doing. And then since then, of course, there's been a great deal of debate in the West about how this has happened, how it's been allowed to happen, what the consequences might be, although, of course, the conflict continues. And it's really difficult to get a good hold on what's going on. That's hardly surprising, it's conflict, but also where it's come from, and where the responsibilities lie in terms of the West's and in the West's relationship with Russia over the last few years, perhaps, and also the West's relationship with Russia over a much longer period, Russia's relationship with the peoples of Ukraine, the Ukraine's relationship with the people of Russia. There's an awful lot going on there, which has contributed to this disaster from the point of view of the people of Ukraine. And it's interesting to see the reaction. On social media and stuff like that, when you see, and even on a governmental level, is people projecting the Ukrainian flag onto buildings or sticking it on their profile pages as to support the people of Ukraine. It's not a support at all. It's a declaration of support, but it doesn't actually help. Let's put it that way. I've seen a few bits that people from Ukraine have put onto social media and the internet and YouTube. It's not helping them at all. Funnily enough, I was looking at the YouTuber Aussie Man. I've quite a childish sense of humour, and his video reviews keep me amused for a few minutes when they come up. Just very occasionally, he does something a little bit different, and he got together four or five people from Ukraine who are fans of his YouTube page and have been in touch with him about the crisis in Ukraine, and he did a Zoom call with them, and it was really interesting. Really interesting, and actually, I would recommend that people go and have a look at that to get some idea of the real impact of what's going on in terms of the people of Ukraine. Um, from my point of view, it's indicative of a great deal of confusion about what the West stands for. And Putin, I think, has probably taken advantage of that to a certain extent. And that people in the West, and when I say people, I mean activists, politicians, people in the media, the legacy media, are spending an awful lot of time thinking about the way they look, the way they come out of it, and not really thinking about more important issues like the well-being of the people, the values those people hold. The reason those values exist, things like free speech, freedom to protest peacefully. These things, the important things, are being struck by the wayside for appearance's sake, which is, well, dangerous, because it exposes us to abuse of power, authoritarianism, and the worst side of humanity, which to some extent Vladimir Putin represents, or certainly in my thinking he represents that. One of the great problems that we've had in the West is that we don't understand, on a popular level, certainly don't understand Russians, what it means to be Russian, what Russians think about the role of the state, what Russians think about being a man and being a woman, what Russians think about freedom of speech and expression and protest and all that sort of stuff. We don't really understand the values which persist and underlie Russian society. Obviously not everybody holds those values, but there must be some, and we don't understand them. And that's likely to be one of the key sources for distrust between Western countries and the Russian state, or certainly the Russian state is able to expose that as a means of isolating the Russian people into a them and us situation. And of course making people more susceptible to propaganda as a result. And we in the West, we're not doing that great in that respect at the moment either. We're really being propagandized in some respects. Certainly the COVID pandemic has been subject to extreme propaganda and has exposed an opportunity for those who are authoritarian to assert that control over what people are allowed to say with words like misinformation. I hate that word. It's just so Orwellian. It's so Orwellian. One of the great challenges that people like me face, and I'm just an average idiot, is that the internet has given us so much information that we have no means anymore of distinguishing the useful information from the rubbish, because it all looks the same online, generally. And now we have a situation where the legacy media, the big media companies, because there's so much competition, partly as a result of the internet and connectivity, have to be more concerned about their commercial positioning than delivering honest, open, factual reporting to the people. The truth is second to being first. It doesn't matter whether it's true or not, you have to say it first, because then you get the clicks and you get the likes or whatever it happens to be. You get the advertising revenue and you carry on for the next day. Everyone gets bread on the table. So the average Joes like me, and possibly even you, are left stranded. But what we do have, and the thing that I'm finding more, is that we have each other. We can see each other and communicate to a certain extent via YouTube and directly. And we can tell each other what's going on in our part of the world. And people aren't stupid. People like me and you, we're average Joes, but we're not that stupid. So we can make some decisions about the way that we view the world and the way that our biases might impact on how we viewed something. And we can take that into account when we speak to each other. And we can understand that other people might have different views on that. One of the things that really annoys me is that we are treated like idiots by the people we've elected to govern. We aren't trusted to make decisions about what might be true, what might not be true. We're not trusted to interpret facts about things that are going on in the world. That has to be done for us before it's presented. Some facts might have to be left out in order for that to make sense. Well, that should be up to us to make that decision about the relative importance of the things that have happened. So all we can do for the time being, I think, is keep talking. Keep saying what we think. Keep watching. Pick out those bits of information. Pick out the facts. Find the people online who might have something called some integrity. The people who aren't dependent on being first to say it, rather than actually think about whether or not it's true. And we'll see where we get. I'll speak to you again soon. I'm not really very commercially minded, but I'd really appreciate it if you've enjoyed the video, or you agree or even disagree with some of the things that I've said, that if you could like, subscribe, and please do comment below. And speak to you soon. Thanks very much. All the best.